At 20 to 11 now on Granada, the news and sport from ITN.
From the studios of ITN, the news and sport with Dermot Monaghan and Graham Miller.
Good evening, welcome to the programme. The headlines tonight: after the big freeze, the big thaw and flooding misery for hundreds of thousands. And in sport, Tottenham's Chris Armstrong crushes Manchester United's hopes at the top of the Premiership. Hundreds of thousands of homes throughout the country are flooded and thousands of people face water shortages tonight as the big freeze turns into the big thaw. So much water is pouring through burst mains and domestic pipes that in some areas it'll be rationed from tomorrow. All day, water company switchboards have been jammed and emergency plumbing services inundated with calls. Linda Gummery reports.
Water rationing in the middle of winter and a new crisis for the water companies. Burst mains across the country are draining the reservoirs at an alarming rate. In Northern Ireland, 100,000 homes are tonight without water. Tankers brought in supplies to remote areas that have been cut off for several days. Repairs are continuing, but it could be some time before the supply can be reconnected. In Glasgow, tenants from 4 tower blocks had to be evacuated when water tanks burst. Housing workers battled to stop the flood as water poured through ceilings in the flats. In Greater Manchester, nearly 200,000 homes are without water and heating. Tempers are fraying as families are left stranded.
There's been no vans around or anything with any sort of bottles of water or any source where we can go and get some water from even. And as it's New Year's Day, obviously the shops are closed, so we can't even go and buy any water from anywhere.
For those with too much water as well as those with none at all, the misery is set to continue. Even when supplies are restored, so much has been lost, rationing is almost inevitable. Linda Gummery, ITN.
A man is critically ill in hospital tonight after being ambushed by 2 gunmen in County Armagh. They opened fire while he and his girlfriend sat in their car in Lurgan. The woman escaped uninjured. The gunmen ran off to a nearby Republican housing estate. The deputy leader of the Ulster Unionists, John Taylor, has issued a new warning to the government not to take his party's support for granted. It follows the Northern Ireland Secretary's pledge that there'll be no special deals with the Unionists over the peace process, despite the government's reduced majority. Our political correspondent Hugh Pym reports.
With Emma Nicholson's defection to the Liberal Democrats and the prospect of another by-election defeat, the government's more dependent than ever on the support of the Ulster Unionists. Today, though, the Northern Ireland Secretary ruled out any special guarantees to the Unionists as the peace process moved forward.
Oh, everybody's been running this for years. Secret deals and so on. Doesn't happen like that. Of course, the Ulster Unionist Party are the largest unionist party in Northern Ireland. They represent people who are the majority in Northern Ireland, greater number of people living there, so their views have always been given very great importance.
But there was a sharp reaction from the Unionists. Don't count on our backing if it comes to a vote of confidence.
We're quite prepared to oppose the government in a vote of no confidence if the issue is one which we can't support them on. For example, if it were on a federal Europe, we couldn't support them, or if it was on reaching some accommodation with the IRA terrorists, we couldn't support them. Therefore, we're going to judge each subject on a daily basis on its own merits.
A sign of irritation there that the Ulster Unionists feel they may have been taken for granted, and the message to the government's business managers as they prepare to return to the Commons next week: don't assume we're in your back pocket. Hugh Pym, ITN, Westminster.
Police in Bristol are tonight hunting an armed gang after a father of 3 was killed while trying to stop a street robbery. 37-year-old Evan Berry, a community centre caretaker, was shot in the head when he went to the aid of a man being mugged in the St Paul's area. 2 brothers who tried to intervene during the attack were also wounded. Police say they've had a good response to their latest appeal for more information about the missing teenager Louise Smith. It was made during New Year celebrations at a nightclub near Bristol, where Louise was last seen on Christmas Eve. And a 22-year-old man has been charged with attempting to murder 10 people with a knife at a Birmingham supermarket last Friday. Shahid Iqbal, a shelf stacker at a Netto store in Bawdsley Green, was remanded in custody. Documents from 1965, released today under the 30-year secrecy rule, have revealed a radical plan by the former Prime Minister Harold Wilson to stop the great train robbers from spending their haul. He wanted to make it worthless by withdrawing every pound note from circulation. Tim Wilcox reports.
The Great Train Robbery was the biggest theft in history, the gang making off with more than £2.5 million in used banknotes. The police's failure to capture all those responsible clearly rankled Harold Wilson, who hatched an extraordinary plot to deprive the robbers of their spoils. 2 years before his famous pound-in-your-pocket speech, Wilson wanted to withdraw all banknotes from circulation, asking bank customers to surrender their old money for notes with a new design. Such a move would have left the gang with worthless bits of paper, but according to the Treasury and the Bank of England, was totally impractical. Of more importance, however, to one minister of cabinet rank at the time is why there's a 30-year rule at all.
Why can't we know? Because there are very few real secrets, military secrets, budgets maybe, negotiating positions, but most information, if it comes out, may embarrass the government, but it doesn't damage the national interest.
Confronted by the Declaration of Independence in Rhodesia and the worsening situation in Vietnam, Wilson's banknote plan was quietly dropped, his government preoccupied with other things. Tim Wilcox, ITN.
The boxer Chris Eubank said tonight he was fully responsible for injuring 2 women at a New Year's fireworks party on Brighton Beach. They suffered burns to their upper bodies after Eubank lit a firework, which then set off other fireworks lying nearby. The women are still in hospital. Eubank was arrested and later released on bail. Now with a roundup of the New Year's Day sport, here's Graham Miller.
In the English Premiership, Manchester United's hopes of cutting Newcastle's lead at the top were wrecked by Tottenham tonight when they were soundly beaten 4-1 at White Hart Lane. In an amazing first half, Spurs' early lead lasted barely a minute, United equalising straight from the kick-off, and Cole the scorer, his 4th goal in as many games. But Spurs, 2-1 up at half-time, extended their lead with 2 headers from Chris Armstrong, destroying United's New Year hopes. He dived in for the first, and the £4.5 million striker scored his 2nd and Spurs' 4th with a real beauty to round off one of the surprise results of the season so far. Earlier, Stan Collymore helped Liverpool stage a remarkable comeback against Forest. They were 2 down before he laid on 3 goals and scored 1 himself against his old club. And Robbie Fowler got a couple, taking him to 20 for the season, as Liverpool continue to keep in touch with the leaders. Duncan Ferguson also scored twice, his first goal since his release from prison, as Everton made it 3 wins out of 3 at Wimbledon. So, at the top, Newcastle, with 2 games in hand, have a 4-point lead over United. They play Arsenal tomorrow. Spurs are now level on points with Liverpool in 4th place. In Scotland, Hibs won the Edinburgh derby, coming from a goal down to beat Hearts. Kevin Harper got the winner as Hibs recovered from their 7-0 drubbing by Rangers on Saturday. Rugby League, and Wigan are virtually assured of winning the Stones Bidder Championship for the 7th successive season after beating Warrington. This time, with the Super League just 3 months away, they'll get to keep the trophy. Vaiga Tigamala scored a devastating hat-trick and then dedicated it to a young friend who died over the Christmas holidays. Only Leeds can catch them, but Wigan's point-scoring difference is so superior, any celebrations at Central Park would not be premature. Cricket, and England looks set to field their most attacking side of the winter for tomorrow's final and deciding test against South Africa at Newlands. Devon Malcolm is standing by for a recall in a 5-strong bowling attack, with England on £5,000 a man to win. And that's it for tonight.
From Graham, me, and all the team at ITN, good night.
Good night.
Good evening. It's a damp and misty night out there. If you're planning to make a journey tonight, you'll find some very dense fog around. It will still be there tomorrow morning too. Tomorrow's going to start off grey and misty as this morning did, but things are slowly warming up, that warmer air coming up very slowly from the south over the next few days. You can see it on the charts for Wednesday. That's the same sort of pattern. Milder southerly winds coming our way, weather fronts that will bring a little bit of light rain at times, mostly to the west. Let's look at tonight, though. It is a foggy night across most of Britain tonight. Temperatures in central and eastern parts only just above freezing, but there's still a chance of 1 or 2 icy patches on the roads, especially high up on the hills. Further north are outbreaks of rain and still some sleet around. For the rest of Britain, there's just light rain and drizzle in places. Tomorrow morning will be a grey morning, much like this morning, a lot of mist and fog around, taking much of the day to clear. The best chance of any brightness is for western parts of Wales and southwest England, where the clouds looking a little bit thinner, I think, through the day, perhaps a glimpse of the sunshine. And that's certainly where the highest temperatures are, up around 8 to 10, but still chilly in eastern counties. It's warming up slowly. Good night.
Sponsored by Powerjet, producing electricity, whatever the weather.